Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. In this video, we'll be cleaning up a little bit of what we left as a mess from the last video in Santa Clarita. We're going to take a look at some of the traffic implications of everything that we've changed and added, and then we're going to go around and add a few more cargo connections, making sure all of our industries are working as best as they can. And so in the last video, we put in this new elevated train station as well as this elevated rail line that you can see heading out into the distance over towards Montgomery. And that required a lot of restructuring of the roads in this area. And I want to make sure that we didn't cause any major traffic backups that we're going to have to come back and deal with later on once the city gets gridlocked. And so the first thing I have noticed is that this road isn't as far backed up as it used to be. I'm not sure if this 4-lane road is actually helping or if all those cars just collapsed into a more denser configuration here, but it does look like this is getting lower. And then over on this side near our station, our new 4-way road is pretty much backed up all the way to the entrance of the city, and this is what I'm mainly worried about, as this is a problem we had before that we fixed with our previous road configuration, and now we don't want to sort of fall into that same trap just because we changed around the roads. And so one thing I think that we can change is, I'm not sure if this needs to be a one-way road anymore. So if we just simply grab a regular city street and upgrade these two portions of road, that might actually get some people into this right lane to turn right and then take this road to head into more of the center city area so that they're not riding this road all the way until this road and then turning right. So that'll just help get them off of this road before they reach the bus station and all of these other busy intersections. Now, taking a look at our destinations layer, we do have this split up almost pretty evenly between these three roads. This lower one down here is at like 70-ish. Our new 4-lane road is up in the 80s. And then our sort of minor connection up to the upper area of Santa Clarita is at about 40s for their destination layers. And so I think what we want to do is try to even these out a little more so that we can maybe get some more people taking this small road up here. But the issue is figuring out how we're going to influence that. And then I think maybe another issue that's causing a lot of our traffic to be concentrated in this area is that's where all of our larger main roads are. So I think maybe getting a larger road somewhere on this side of town that connects up to our country road between here and Montgomery might help to draw a few more people off of these main roads. You can see we have a pretty decent amount of people driving in from where I presume is Birmingham. So yeah, we have quite a number of people coming in from Birmingham. Maybe this could be solved with the bus connection, much similar to how we did with Santa Clarita and Montgomery. I don't think there's really going to be much of any way that we can get a train between Birmingham and Santa Clarita. I think for that, the elevation change is definitely too large to have that connection made. However, I do think maybe having a bus station maybe here-ish, where this road comes and meets between Santa Clarita and Birmingham, I think changing that bus stop to a bus station and then setting up a line between these two cities can potentially help to really cut down the private transportation, which I presume is then bleeding into all of this traffic here, and this is why we're seeing these cars turning right and up onto this road, because they're probably trying to get on this segment of road to go up to Montgomery or just into all this low density area. And so first let's take a look at this area, and really the only way I think we can do anything to sort of influence more private transportation up this way is to simply make the distance shorter So maybe we get a more shallow angle on this. Maybe something that looks a little bit more like this. So turning onto this road is not so much of a detour then. And then after having this connection in here, the only other thing I can think to make this connection a lot easier is by bringing this road straight across and connecting it to this intersection. So that would provide a much more direct line of transportation. So let's roll with that. It is a pretty destructive process, but I think it might be worth it in the end. So this is what this new block can look like. We'll just hit play and let that run, but hopefully this straighter road will draw more people up and this way instead of everyone coming in on this road and then turning left, presumably here, to go up into the city. And so while we wait for things to clear up over here and numbers to update and cars to reroute, I want to take a look over here. And I think another reason for a lot of this traffic here, especially at this intersection, is there's not really any spot for our roads to connect across this way. So it'll probably result in a tunnel that goes down and then pops up one or two streets farther back, but one of these intersections here needs to connect up into this area just for the sake of connecting to the rest of the city. And I think one area that could do that pretty well is right in here. I think if we delete this, we'll pause so the city doesn't come in and build a bunch while we're doing this. But I think something in here could be really nice because we already had a really weird web of roads before. I think having this connection might help to integrate that a little bit better into this area. Alright, so after a little bit of restructuring, I think now this road looks pretty good here. It does get a little bit steep right at the entrance, but I think that's okay. So just to end this off, we'll lock all of these roads so that the city doesn't do any weird stuff with the connections, but I think this should be good then. Alright, so now while we let these roads do their thing and see how the overall effect on traffic is, let's come back to our bus stop / bus station area, and that of course is going to be right here. So we will pause, delete that, and then we'll just simply get a nice small building in here. And so this little building here should serve as a nice little bus station right along the river. It's a pretty nice area. So this will be where our connection up to Birmingham is going to be. So we just need to add another stop or station up in Birmingham, and then we can go from there. Alright, and then this is what this side on Birmingham is going to look like. We were able to fit this in right next to our distribution center here, so I think this is turning into a nice little complex for all sorts of transit. And of course this one is also still acting as a bus station for this region of the city. So now really all we have to do is get our buses set up, and then hopefully we'll see them using our buses instead of taking their cars. Also, as a little side note here, it seems like Birmingham has really exploded in population since we last really took a look at it, so let's just quickly zoom around and see what has happened. And so it seems like all of our big skyscraper buildings are tucked right along this mountainside here, and I think that's really cool. You can see these buildings are just as high as this elevation here, so I think it's cool that Birmingham is sort of one of the few cities on this map that is defined by the landscape that it sits in. Since it can't really climb these mountains or crawl into these ditches, it leads to some really interesting and unique areas. And so another one of those areas is right here, where most of this low density stuff wasn't really filled in, and now we can see it's pretty much stretching and overflowing this edge of the mountains. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to work its way down. This might be an edge here, but over here it might be able to sort of work its way down into this area over time. And then of course out this way the city continues to spill out of pretty much the only opening in or out. So of course it makes sense that we're seeing more growth heading in this direction. Other than that, I think Birmingham's really coming to be a nice city with a lot of personality in just how it's laid out and the sort of terrain that it has to deal with. And so we'll come here to our road depot and we'll grab some regional buses. And again, I think we'll do buses like this since it has a top speed of 75 miles an hour. Much similar to the logic for our bus line between Santa Clarita and Montgomery. We want this to be able to travel faster than the private transportation cars that are going between the cities so that the AI values our public transportation over its own private transportation. And so some good observations now that this has flowed through. Our road running this way seems to be getting more and more empty, so that's good. We no longer have a backup of 1 or 2 intersections on either side. These streets are still busy, but I'm not sure if that'll get better now that these roads are clearing up. And then of course our line of traffic here is flowing a little bit better. The line isn't quite as far back as it was before. Now it's about to here, so hopefully this will slowly filter through and we'll start to see this area clear up as well. Alright, so that's going to be all for taking care of this traffic, at least for a while we really wait for everything to set in. And just to double check, we are getting some people on this line. We had a train just leave with 42 people heading over to Montgomery, so clearly this is helping lower the demand between these cities. We have 12 people waiting over here in Montgomery, and it seems like we did just have a train leave, leaving with 11 people. So these trains right now seem a little big for the demand, but I think this is definitely getting cars off of this road. As we can see, virtually no more traffic jams in this area at all. And so I want to move on to maximizing our cargo connections. We can see here this tools factory isn't producing at its full output. So we can see here the consumer, or the suppliers I should say. We have this sawmill over here providing 400 planks, and then this sawmill over here only providing about 280. We can see that reflected here. And I think what we want to do is we want to get this number up to 400 so that this tools factory can be completely fully supplied by a single sawmill. So right now this sawmill is sort of splitting its demand between the tools factory and the machines factory. So if we come over to this machines factory and we take a look at its suppliers, all of these planks are coming from 400 over here, and then I believe the rest is what's being split at this sawmill. And so this one should be all the way up at 800, and I think the reason why it's not quite there is this line is getting hung up at the station here, and this can easily be solved just by having an alternate platform selected for these logs and then making sure that our rate is high enough. So each one of these forests produces 800, and if we take a look at this line, our rate is close up to 2,000 actually. So we could probably sell a few of these, get this rate down to about 1,600, and then 1,609 is perfect. And so now we should see, as all of our trucks come and go in here, this number will slowly rise up to 800 as our trucks work their way in. And real quick, we might just make this a little bit longer just so that our trucks have space to get in here and we don't end up with any sort of backup coming in and out of here, because we don't really want a lot of trucks getting stuck at the entrance here, since that'll really throw a wrench into everything that we're doing. So then once this number gets up, we just want to make sure that our rate on these lines are correct. So 400 going to the tools factory, and then a little under 350 going to what I presume is the machines factory. And so it seems like the limiting factor is actually the steel, not the planks here. As we can see, these two numbers, well, these will add up a little bit less than the 800 required. So I think just maybe to be on the safe side, we'll get one more truck in here to bring that rate up a little bit closer to 400. We'll see farther down how it goes. Since we are splitting our planks here, we don't want all of our trucks leaving half empty with planks just because one is getting favored more than the other. But anyway, this tools factory is getting probably around 600, which is what we see reflected here. So all the way back to what the goal of this is I think we're going to bring logs from up here down to this sawmill so we can get this production rate up to 400, and then this tools factory will finally be operating at its largest capacity. And so coming up to this forest, we're just going to simply redo these roads a little bit to make it just a little bit simpler. And so we can just have a road like this, and then we'll want some kind of cargo platform to pick these logs up at. And so here I think it'll just be something as simple as this. That should work. And so we'll get some more details, flesh this area out a bit, and then we'll be good to leave this. And actually first I think we'll get our trucks set up just so we can get a head start on that. And so for this we'll go with some of these trucks here. I don't think we're using these anywhere, so this is also a nice set of variety for us. And we'll set up a new line from here all the way down to this station here. And actually, interestingly enough, I don't think we actually need this line set up. I think taking a look at our rate here, we're only moving logs at a rate of 572 when this is producing at a rate of 800. So I think if we can get this running at its full rate, this will then jump up to the 400 that we need, and we don't even need to have this other line connected. So I think maybe, well, we'll keep this. I'm sure we can simplify a lot of the other implications of this later, but first let's fix the rate on this line. So we'll manage these vehicles and we'll swap these out for some other kind of flatbed truck. Actually, I think we'll just use the same kind. So we'll replace those. That brings our rate right up to the 800 mark that we need it at. So we don't need more or less vehicles to fulfill this need. And then taking a look at our other line, we'll want this to go up to 800, so we'll just adjust this line. And so with 4 more vehicles, that gets us up to 850, which is just above where we want to be. And so eventually this sawmill will be going as quick as it can. Alright, and so after thinking and planning for a little bit, I think what's going to happen is this sawmill, once it's fully up and running, can provide the sole resource, or the sole line of planks for the tools factory. So then this sawmill can shift to entirely focus on the machines factory. And then I think for probably the first time in this series, we're going to have to shut down a line because we have nowhere for these logs and these planks to go to at this point. We'll obviously leave the infrastructure set up because there is an opportunity where maybe we can set up another tools factory somewhere out this way, and then we can have it perhaps shipped up this river so that can supply Downey and Mesa with tools. I'm not too sure, it's an idea, but because we have all this set up, I really like to not just have it go to waste. So we'll find somewhere for these planks to go in the future, but I think temporarily we'll have to shut this line down. So anyway, let's get back to this. I think all of our trucks are coming in here. They're going to space themselves out, so it's not going to be quite as crowded. It looks like our transport number here is slowly starting to go up as these trucks make their way around. And so then really we just have to add some light detailing to this forest, add some more trees to really sell the look, and then we can be done with this line. Alright, so here's what our final forestry area looks like. We just added a few buildings over here, just sort of like a new storage-ish area, and then of course our platform and our storage over here. So I think this is a good place to leave this off as. This should upgrade pretty soon, and just double checking our rate. Our rate has actually dropped down to 700. I assume something must have happened to change that, so we'll just get 2 more vehicles there. That'll get us well above 800. And then of course down here I think we want to get another set of terminals, so then we can have one of these lines switch over to the other one, and hopefully this will help get these trucks in and out of here much easier. So then while we wait for this to ramp up its production, let's upgrade our boat line so that this rate is up to 800 as well, and that'll just be as simple as duplicating one of the boats. 900 is okay, so I'm happy staying like that. Alright, and so we'll see how this goes. We should see, well, we see this now upgrading, so then all of this should be good and sort of self-contained. The forest is upgrading, everything's doing good there. We can check over here at the tools factory. This obviously isn't going to be getting enough planks yet until our sawmill is back up and running, but in the meantime we can change around everything happening here so that this sawmill can then only supply over to our machines factory. So now what that means is some of these lines can also get discontinued. So this one here, the sawmill to Santa Clarita, that can go away. So we'll just manage this line. Well, I guess we have to manage the vehicles first, sell all the vehicles, manage the line, and then we can just confirm to delete that line. So the next really is pretty much just our line here that takes the planks over to the machines factory. And so now this is a line where we'll want the rate to go up to 800. So we'll probably have to come in here and replace these vehicles first. And I think we'll go with these trucks. We haven't used this one yet, but it has quite a good capacity, can carry planks and machines. So I'm more than happy switching these out. It looks like our rate has gone up to around 700, so we'll probably want 2 more of these to get us right at about 800. So here we see this truck taking away some of the planks. And this can actually carry a lot of planks, so maybe we don't need that many trucks. I think maybe the rate number is getting a little messed up because it has a variable amount of capacity. So I assume for things like steel and machines is probably closer to that 38, where it looks like planks it can hold up to 65. So it might be hard to get this rate to be exact, but I think we'll pretty much base it on how full it's moving the plank loads once things get established, since we're really only moving a minimal amount of machines to this port. I think largely, well, where does this even take it? So yeah, so it looks like this port is our sole supplier of machines to Jackson. Let's just make sure we don't have machines coming in from elsewhere. And so it does seem like this this Jackson machines line is getting some use. I think we'll keep it. If we look at the suppliers here, or I guess consumers is what we're looking for, we're really not sending as much there. especially considering machines is the most in-demand resource for Jackson. So I believe the demand is there, it's just not really falling through the chain. So yeah, we have all these machines up here that aren't being supplied, so I think maybe it's just a location thing and demand, but we'll get that worked out once we get another machines factory up and running. But now with this sawmill being the sole supplier for this machines factory, we no longer need our connection to this forest and this sawmill. So unfortunately, this line that runs along this nice cliffside highway that we built as one of our first projects, I think, this will finally be going away. I'm sure eventually we'll get this road operating to some degree, but it's not really going to be supplying anything, so there's no point in having all these vehicles coming through here. We'll sell that line. We'll keep the line at, well, I guess this line we don't even need. So this line we'll keep, the one between the forest and the sawmill. We'll just sell the vehicles because we will get this one back up and running. We just don't want to lose money running empty trucks. And then this line can go away altogether because we'll never really be sending planks to this machines factory again. And so coming to this machines factory, one thing that's interesting is the transport rating isn't really up. It's producing at its maximum efficiency, which is what we want, but it seems like our machines to the cargo hub are not leaving as quickly as we would like. So I think this is a good opportunity to maybe replace these trains, get something much different coming in and out of here. And so I think this is going to be the train that we're going to replace these out for. They're quicker, faster. The rate has gone up to 661 now, as you can see. And figuring out the exact rate that we want for this cargo hub line is going to be a little tricky since this machines factory is sending machines to Santa Clarita by truck. We have our line again out here coming to the tools factory where it gets shipped over to Jackson. So I think 660 is probably right about where we want, since we probably assume about 100's going to Santa Clarita and then maybe 50 is heading out to Jackson at the moment. So this seems to be about the right number. We'll keep an eye on this train station and make sure that the machines do clear out, but other than that, I think that should be this whole area finally solved and fully running. And so as for plans for this sawmill, I think what we're actually going to do is get another machines factory running, since I have mentioned before, machines and goods are the two sort of hardest resources to make in this game, and we only have one of each of those factories going. So we have a lot of the resources right around here to get another machines factory going. We have this sawmill here. If we get this forest connected to it, that should be the plank supply that we need for machines. And then we have a handful of steel mills, as well as a few ore deposits around here. Maybe we can finally use this one that's sort of in this crater. I think that would be really cool to do. So that's just some future planning stuff, which will probably get started as our next project as long as nothing major has popped up anywhere. But then just sort of to end this video off, I want to take a look again at our traffic, which really actually seems to have gone back to how it was before. It seems like we now have this line of traffic all the way out to about here, which is where it was when we started the video. And this traffic over here comes to around here. So I suppose we'll be starting off next episode again, maybe getting this smoothed out again and troubleshooting. But it seems like our bus line has some people waiting between Birmingham and Santa Clarita, so some of that traffic demand is going away. Maybe not as easily as we'd want it to, but it is slowly going. But I think as for that, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. And so with that, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.